Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens. It's Dark Side of the Stream, episode 165. Today, it's always different, my man. Oh, you're in there. I see
The
you.
world is different. Well, there it is. I fixed it.
All right. So today, while Jay fixes that, was my pick for the new year.
What show number is this? And we still don't get it right. I think we've had one correct start.
I think everyone starts to think that this is a stick, and that's what we're going to make you believe. This is a shtick.
Yeah, I actually know what I'm doing. I'm pretending.
I've been very vocal about how much I loved Geddy Lee's biography, My Effing Life, which is unbelievable.
All you've been talking about.
Everyone should read it.
All you've been talking about.
So good. But we don't talk about books on this show. And so we couldn't do an episode where we just talked about the biography, but my way of
could you imagine if you made me read every week?
You don't have to read it. You can listen to it.
No, but I'm saying if it was a book show, like there's no possible way.
We'd have one episode a year, maybe. He didn't even read
and
Tom
I wouldn't
Sawyer.
have finished it. I wouldn't have read it.
He didn't even read
I didn't finish Huck Finn.
He didn't read Tom Finn. So how would he even know?
Tom Finn.
He didn't read Tom Finn. So
I even got the small version from a listener.
Someone sent him the Cliff Notes. He still didn't even read that one. So yeah, Jay's not the reading type, but I didn't actually listen. I didn't read the book. I listened to it because I wanted to hear.
That's the way to roll.
I do listen, but I do read. But I when it comes to biographies, if you can have the person that had the life,
yeah, if they're reading it, it's the best.
Why would I want to hear it in my own voice when I could hear Geddy read it in his voice? Of course, I did that. But anyway, bottom line is this. So. Better yet, Geddy actually has a TV docuseries called Geddy Lee Asks Are Bass Players Human Too, which is on Paramount Plus. We had to steal my mom's password to watch it.
And thanks, Mom.
Is incredible. It's a 4-episode series where he meets 4 different bass players, more specifically Robert Trujillo from Metallica, Les Claypool from Primus, one of my favorite bass players of all time, the chick bass player from Hole, and also the final one, Chris Novoselic from Nirvana. Those are incredible stories we will talk about in depth. But before we do that, let's just say that any musician of all time, any lead singer, because I guess this would be geared towards you. So a specific lead singer wants to have a docuseries and go hang out with different lead singers. Who would that lead singer you would want to come visit you? Who would that be first? This is a 2-parter. So what's your first name? Who would you want to come visit you out of everybody?
David Lee Roth.
David Lee Roth.
Because, bro,
now
he's so wild. Yeah, now David Lee Roth, he's so wild, bro.
You know what's funny is that I just read an article, and I think was it Kenny Wayne Shepherd who said this? I don't remember who it was, but someone was telling me what it was like to be on the road with him, and they just said it was so awful because it was like the whole thing is, okay, everyone back in your dressing rooms, David's coming down the hall.
No. He's not like that anymore.
He
now
is like that, buddy.
People now,
and
dude.
I don't know. Do you know him personally?
No.
How can you say that he's not like that?
Because
once a jerk, always a jerk.
I know, but I've heard some great stories of him. I met him once in a kitchen, and he asked me if I made the 7-layer Mexican dip. You make that, man? It looks like a Mexican flag. No, I didn't make it, Dave. that was our interaction,
dude.
But yeah. He's just so out of his mind and wild. I would love him to come over and hang out.
David Lee Roth asks the question, our lead singer's human too. What would you show him? You have a day, because it looked like they had like 2 days to kind of take Geddy through their life and what their home life is.
I'd bring him in here.
You show him the radio station?
Yeah, of course. We'd come and hang out in here.
Okay.
We would probably go to a few bars, and I would
show him the scene.
And bring him out to a show.
Yeah.
And let him see how the younger kids are doing it.
Would you try to like do a little bit more? Because
we would do.
Jay, if you've never seen Jay play, and this is one of the things that I hold very near and dear to my heart, is Jay's little shimmies and his onstage moves. He very specific to him. Which, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch him. If you do, you're probably laughing to yourself because you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I love this.
It's so good, dude. Your little shimmies. This. You don't even know that you do it. But I could send Magic Tyler out to a Machine Gun Symphony show, film the entire thing, and then just point out every time you do it.
That is really funny. I know there's this one with the microphone that a lot of people imitate in the crowd. They're always like, do this one.
Well, there's a thing he does.
Wow. That's awesome.
But that's great. And so you wouldn't even do any like kicks or anything?
No, we'd probably add a few Van Halen songs and try to have him come up on stage and hang out. And then we would just hang out and just listen to some stories. And he's got some amazing tales to tell. So be good.
Yeah. That's a good one. That's a good answer. That's a really
just
good
because he's
answer.
so wild and literally for so long been an icon,
David Lee Roth. Huh. I'm sitting here trying to figure out who I would do and what I would show them. As like, would I show them, the musician side of me, the creator, the creative, probably a combination of everything because I feel like it's all part of who I am.
Yeah, the same with me, like
Who that would be, I don't know. Like
the dude from Radiohead,
Tom York, I don't know, because
David Gilmour,
Gilmour from Floyd or Paul McCartney, and we talk about. But then it would all I wouldn't want to do it that way because I feel like I would just be turning it back on asking them.
Yeah,
things.
I would be too. I know.
And that's why I think this show was so good, was because Getty did such a good job of getting with these guys who were obviously fans of him and knew who he was. I mean, how could you play bass and not know who Geddy Lee is?
Yeah, Primus, that guy.
Yeah. Oh, they played together since like Primus was in their youth, and they fished together in the 90s, and that we'll get into that. But that was the first thing I wanted to ask you, and also get to the point where none of these guys were like. I mean, you could kind of tell when they were playing together. At one point, Robert Trujillo actually got Jaco Pastorius's bass back, the bass of Doom that had just gone missing, and he got it back with the family and all this stuff. They got a chance to play it. This is the bass that Jaco literally took the frets off with the butter knife. It's unbelievable, the history of this thing. And Robert has it. You can kind of see sometimes that they
little fanboy,
even both sides.
Yep.
And Getty's just such a cool guy and just a dude that happens to be very talented at the bass and all that stuff. But when you get to it, you see these conversations and interactions happen. You're like, oh, he's just like us. He's a cool guy. That's great.
Yeah. Very chill cat.
We will talk about some of these episodes in description, or more specifically next Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens, back in the studio. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 165. This week we asked the question, are bass players human too? Or at least Geddy Lee asked that question, and we're trying to help him answer it. The first episode deals with Geddy and Les Claypool. If you're not familiar, Les Claypool is the bass player for Primus. Les Claypool is flying bass brigade. They get to do a twang.
He's a wild character. South Park theme song.
Les Claypool is there is no genre to describe what that guy can do, because you listen to early Primus and it's new metal, but then he sings with a southern draw in it, and
it's weird songs too.
And his styling is completely unorthodox. And so it's a very, very good episode because you really get to see like that. That's who he is as a person.
Yeah, just an odd character for sure.
He goes out on tour. When he was here, they went fishing everywhere they go. He has a day off to go fishing.
Odd character.
Across the country. If you had a day off and you were touring across the country, right? You always because Geddy kind of gets to this too. When he was in the late 70s, early 80s, the reason he started liking baseball was because they go to these hotels. The only channels they had were WGN Chicago or TBS Atlanta. So he watched a bunch of Chicago Cubs or Braves games. And that's how we got into baseball, just because of proximity. And now it's the point where or at least not anymore, but when Rush would tour, they would have days off and he would go visit a major ballpark or a minor league ballpark in every single city they went to. Les will go fishing at whatever big lake or area that he can get his hands on while he's touring around the country. What would Jay Stevens do?
I would just explore the city a little bit,
Check it out.
Yeah, it's kind of like my buddy Jason that's in Journey now. When they have a day off like Chicago, he'll just wander around. Yeah, go to museum.
Take it in.
Just take it in.
It's one of my favorite things about going anywhere is to try and immerse myself, not go in and be like, okay, we got to go to this, go to this.
Yeah, I like wandering and just finding.
Outside.
Yeah.
I
don't like like even when I go on these trips and stuff, I don't like really planning. For the most part, I like, hey, let's wander. And you know what? Yeah, that's the hot spot. No, let's go to that place right there, that little shady looking place, and let's find out what goes on in there.
Famous last words.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
But it was really cool to see like Geddy and Les in Les's kind of like it's not a massive house. It's basically just a home in wine country. Of course, he owns his own vineyard. They go to that. He actually takes him to the couple that makes his Pachyderm basses, which are, I think they're getting back to the point where they're actually going to start producing these for purchase, because if you know Les and you know that bass that he has, it's a gorgeous instrument. And he takes him down to the luthiers it's in Northern California that make it for him.
Just a chill cat, man.
And what was so cool was right before he designed it, he finally got to the point where he wanted a specific bass, for his aggressive playing and kind of the tone. And they still have on a piece of box that he broke down. It just used to be just a box that carried frozen apples or something. The bass in its glory, all drawn out by Les. And that was the prototype that they built.
There you go.
It's unbelievably cool. And we'll talk more about a couple more bass players that he met with. Dark Side of the Stream continues next on 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 165. Getty Lee asks, are bass players human too? The next one we're going to talk about is actually something that's very near and dear to Jay's heart. Robert Trujillo, the third bass player for a band known as Metallica. He was in Suicidal Tendencies before that, and Ozzy's bass player for a long time. But what immediately that struck my mind, because he lives in the Venice, California area, still lives there,
man.
Still surfs, still skates. That's where he started as a kid. And I'm thinking the whole time, God, it's like I'm looking at Jay's best friend.
Me and Jack Black went to Culver Junior High, which was connected to Culver High School. The high school, Robert Trujillo's dad taught. He was a teacher, Spanish teacher. Robert was, I think, 2 years older than us, but his sister or his cousin was our classmate. And it was like a big deal when he was in Suicidal Tendencies. It was like, oh my God, this is
a teenager.
Yeah, this dude is pro. He's in the biggest band. It was Suicidal. Suicidal was just a skate rock band in LA,
But they're a very fast, aggressive punk band. And
right.
If you look at some of the bass players that came out of that, Thundercat's another one who played in that band. His brother did too. Easy band to play bass in.
The singer of Suicidal, Mike, his brother, his big brother, was one of the founding guys of Dogtown Skateboards, and this was all buddies with my dad and stuff. So it was a very click. It was very skate oriented scene there.
They go down
Venice,
to
Culver City area.
What was it? Juice Magazine, I think it was called. And that's kind of like the Skater Surf magazine. And, talk about Dogtown and all these kids, him growing up in there. He actually took Getty surfing, which was really interesting to see.
Canadian.
Well, I mean, very orthodox Jewish
Canadian
guy, in a wetsuit. Trying to surf in the Pacific, which if you've never been in the Pacific, is almost always cold.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if it's 110 outside.
It's a little chilly.
It's always cold in the Pacific. Brisk. Doesn't matter where you are. But
then he landed the Metallica gig, dude.
And that was something else that they talked about. Was the only reason that he got the audition was because him and Kurt surfed together. Because they had toured together, being Ozzy Metallica. They are like, oh, you surf? Yeah, hell yeah, dude. Well, then let's go. And so through that, they brought him in. And then you see in Some Kind of Monster, when they officially make him, they're like, we're going to pay you $1 million, which is odd. I mean, you're in that position, you'd be like, oh my God, it's everything. But then at the same time, you're like, God, you guys just made that yesterday. But you kind of got the vibe too.
He's doing good. He's
having a blast. And his family had really good family. His kids playing music. He's doing what he loves.
Yeah, his kids rocking bass now too.
And that's another theme I think that comes across in this docuseries is that you see that these guys are extremely lucky in the fact that they are able to do something that they love every day, and that their passions is what keeps them going, whatever that is. Surfing, being over a winery, and Chris Novoselic being in government. There's just so many different layers. Like Jay says, I'm an onion, man.
Yeah,
there are more to us than just
and it's just another sign of if you do what you love,
you'll never work
very happy. And
never work a day in your life.
Necessarily musician, that's a harder road because you're gone a lot. So it might not be the road for everybody at all.
No,
very taxing on the family. You miss a lot of stuff, but if regardless, if you just do what you dig doing,
you can make it work. You can find that balance. And in Getty's book, he talks a lot about that because he's been with his wife since they were in high school, since they were 17.
Oh, so he missed out on a lot.
But that's the thing. Like he's not that type of guy, first of all. But second of all, he definitely goes into that whole thing about how at a certain point they had gotten to where they were living their own lives, and it was like, time to get off the pot. And so they eventually went to therapy and figured out how to kind of communicate to each other as adults.
It's a hard gig, man.
Communication. So Robert Trujillo, I thought was great. The other one, which I thought was so amazing as a huge fan of Nirvana, was Chris Novoselic, which he lives in the same farmhouse he bought in Washington in the middle
When he
of
first got money.
when he first got in 92. So they've lived in that place for 20 plus years. It's got alpacas on it, goats, llamas.
Yeah, what an interesting character he is.
I mean, but again,
what a normal dude for coming from Nirvana. You know, like you would think, oh man, these guys are out of their mind.
It's kind of just goes back to show you when people ask us, you and I, and they've asked us a million times, what's it like to meet that person? What's the same answer I always give. I don't know about you, is like they're just like us.
Yeah.
Whether you meet them and you're like, oh, we got this connection, you're into this, or you're like, oh, that guy's a jerk. I would never have anything to do with that guy ever again.
Yeah,
you get them both. And it's no different than like what we see in our day-to-day life. We have people that we would want to invite back into our home and people that we'd never call again. So Chris, I thought, though, he had some really interesting stories to tell. And just, you know, at the beginning, he actually started out as an accordion player. So the first thing he shows Getty is, I think it was either Close to the Heart or Fly By Night on an accordion, which was so cool. And Getty's just kind of sitting there, and you could see him recognizing it over in his mind. But yeah, Chris is an accordion player. He ends up bringing his band. I think it's the Giant in the Trees. Matt Cameron from Soundgarden is a drummer. They all come in and jam with Getty. And there's like this point where like Chris is playing the accordion, and you know, when you think of accordion music, the bass player is like dun 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 dun. Getty starts doing these runs that are just so Geddy Lee in the context of this, and it's just like, God, that's how you get it, man. That's how you do it. Also, one thing back to Robert too, I thought was very interesting. The reason he got into bass was Motown, soul.
Boom.
Yeah, I mean, and he said that with those music, he's like, what I realized was that the rhythm section was everything. And that's when I realized, okay, I can make change in this world. And that's why I want to do it.
And he did
so yeah, kids, if you want to be cool, be a bass player or a drummer. We'll get back to our reviews of this Dark Side of the Stream episode 164 next on 104.7 The K. Mike, the intern, Jay Stevens, back in the studio one more time. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 165. Geddy Lee asks, are bass players human too? So would we answer yes to that question? 110%. Especially these four, excuse me. We didn't get a chance to cover the Chicken Hole. I'm not a big fan.
We both are not big Hole fans.
We already went way longer than we normally do in these things because I'm fangirling over this stuff because I love bass players. I am a bass player in addition to a guitar player, and I have nothing but respect. So how many bass players would you give this documentary?
I'd go 3.5.
3.5? Yeah. Short, sweet, good.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. Easy watch. You know, you didn't take
very digestible. Yeah, I'd probably give it a solid 4.5 just because I geeked out.
You were bigger you're really on the Geddy Lee train right now.
Well, I love Rush. I 2112 Tattoo. I've been a big Rush fan my whole life. So. And to finally get to hear, because they're a very personal band. And actually, at one point, when they go to and they go to Les's vineyard, inside the bar is still the tribute he wrote on the wall when Neil died, saying, pour one out for our buddy Neil. That stayed up there and hasn't changed. And Geddy sees it and kind of got teary-eyed on it because they were they knew each other since they were very young. They're a brotherhood. They're a trio, which if you ever worked in a trio, it becomes very, really strong the way that, they say
they're not trying to fill those shoes.
They might, but we'll see how they broach that subject down the line if they do it. But I think they should do something else. It would be a shame for them not to create any more music because they're incredible what they do. But it's a really cool documentary. The only thing that I'm sad about is while I was watching it, I'm trying to think of like, all right, who the next 3 or 4 be, in like popular music. What do you, these iconic bass players that are very specific in like their genre, their taste, the kind of people they are. Style, Like you could go backwards, but most of those guys are gone. So then, like right now,
Paul McCartney would be one.
Paul would be a good one if you could get him. Thundercat, I think, would be really good. He's not as popular over the mainstream, but any musician that is in that scene would know.
Man?
If they get Bootsy, that would be super dope.
Getty like and that, Bootsy, somebody who's really from that era.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll get another season.
Maybe Geddy Lee's watching this right now, and he's like, "Oh, dude, those guys called it.
Yeah,
we're gonna do it.
Look like a lot of fun either way. It's on Paramount Plus. Jay, what are we watching next week?
We're watching what's something that we thought we had to pay for, but I found it for free
All
on YouTube. Those are
right.
the best kind of documentaries. Yeah, I found it for free on YouTube. Look at this. We have special effects now. Where was this the whole time? Wow, God, look at our budget must have gone up. Our ratings. We have so many viewers and listeners now. We got a budget for special
You
effects.
can see that counter is 0.
It's gonna be The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It.
Oh yeah.
Dr. Stephen Greer, who's deep in the UFO community scene, talks about Tesla and his power supply
Free
and
universal energy.
yeah, free universal energy is out there from the universe basically, but it's been suppressed by corporate and oil companies. Pretty interesting. So that's what watch. It's free on YouTube. The Lost Century, How to Reclaim It.
Good thing we'll be busting out those aluminum foil hats one more time.
Yeah.
As always, stream the show live on Facebook
Share it
or
with a friend.
YouTube, 9 a.m. You can listen to my show during 9 a.m. or 6 p.m. or download these as a free podcast from our 104.7 The Cave app. But yes, as Jay said, share them with a friend. I'm like the
That's what
intern.
the YouTubers say. They say like, share, and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up so it reaches more people. That's what they say on YouTube. So
I'm
here
like
we
the
are.
intern.
I'm Jay
That's
Stevens.
Jay Stevens. Reminding you,
we watch
give thumbs up,
documentaries,
so you don't have to. It starts to have the stream on 104.7 The Cave.